Prince Andrew may have given up his royal titles, but the shadow of his connection to Jeffrey Epstein still looms large, over him and over the monarchy. Even years later, new reports keep emerging about his long friendship with the late financier and about the allegations made by Virginia Jeffrey, who accused Andrew of misconduct when she was underage, claims he's always denied.
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady.
In her posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl, released in October 2025, Jeffrey revisits her experiences with Epstein and describes Andrew as someone who saw their encounters as a privilege of status. She even admitted that seeing the 2010 photo of Andrew walking with Epstein in New York left her revolted, saying she was stunned that a royal would be seen so casually with a convicted offender.
He needs to be held accountable. We need to show the world that the rich and the mighty can fall too.
Now, Andrew did settle Jeffrey's civil case back in 2022 without admitting wrongdoing, and he later insisted he vigorously denies all the accusations.
He knows what happened. I know what happened. And there's only one of us telling the truth, and I know that's me.
But recently released court documents revealed something that raised eyebrows again. Andrew apparently stayed in contact with Epstein longer than he'd previously claimed.
But I didn't have much time with him. I suppose I saw him once or twice a year, perhaps maybe maximum of 3 times a year.
Let's rewind to how this all began. Andrew says he met Epstein in 1999, introduced by their mutual friend, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, I met through his girlfriend back in 1999, and I'd known her since she was at university in the UK. And it would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends. I mean, we were friends because of other people.
But according to his former private secretary, that meeting might have happened even earlier, in the early 1990s.
We know from a letter that Alistair Watson, his own private secretary, wrote to the Times that actually they met in 1990. And Steve Hoffenberg, who was the business associate of Epstein, says it was 1991. So, I mean, it certainly wasn't 1999.
What we do know for sure is that flight logs show Andrew visited Epstein's private Caribbean island in February 1999. And that same year, Epstein and Maxwell were reportedly invited to Balmoral, the Queen's Scottish estate. It sounds unthinkable now, but there's even a photo confirming the visit. By 2000, Epstein was a regular in Andrew's circle. He was spotted at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club with Andrew and Melania Trump, later seen lunching with Maxwell and Andrew in New York, and even attended Andrew's 40th birthday party at Windsor Castle, hosted by the Queen herself. Andrew later tried to clarify that Epstein was just there as Maxwell's guest, but that's a little hard to buy, considering the trio were seen together at Royal Ascot that very same month. Then came 2001, the year Virginia Jeffrey said she had been assaulted by Andrew at Maxwell's London home.
He wasn't mean or anything, but he got up and he said thanks and walked out, and I sat there in bed just horrified and ashamed. It was a wicked time in my life. It was a really scary time in my life. I had just been abused by a member of a royal family.
The prince has always denied it, famously claiming he couldn't have been there because he was at a Pizza Express in Woking that night.
Why would you remember that so specifically? Why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do.
Unusual, indeed. It's not often a royal swaps the palace for Pizza Express. Despite the growing scandal around Epstein, he was still a guest at Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday in 2006, just days before his arrest in Florida.
Why would you do that?
Because I was asking Ghislaine. But even so, at the time, I don't think certainly I wasn't aware when the invitation was issued what was going on in the United States.
In 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty to exploiting a person who had not yet reached adulthood and spent 13 months in jail. Andrew claimed that's when he cut off contact. But then came 2010 and the infamous Central Park photos. Andrew was visiting Epstein in New York, reportedly staying at his townhouse, and the two were spotted walking together. The pictures caused a media firestorm. When confronted about it, Andrew said he went to New York only to end their friendship face to face.
Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together.
But that explanation didn't convince many.
You said you went to break up the relationship, and yet you stayed at that New York mansion several days. I'm wondering how long.
But I was doing a number of other things while I was there.
But you were staying at the house of
Yes.
a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay.
To make matters worse, journalist Katie Couric later wrote that Epstein had actually thrown a dinner party that week to celebrate his release from jail, with Andrew reportedly the guest of honor.
Well, I was there, so there was a dinner. I don't think it was quite as you might put it, but yeah, okay, I was there at a dinner, yeah.
A farewell dinner, either an odd goodbye or a sign they were still friends. Those Central Park photos became impossible to shake off, especially after Epstein's arrest in 2019 on new trafficking charges, and his death that same summer. That's when Andrew did the infamous Newsnight interview to clear his name, but it backfired, sparking instant public backlash.
She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat.
Within days, Andrew announced he was stepping back from royal duties for the foreseeable future, admitting that his connection to Epstein had caused a major disruption to the royal family. Then, in 2022, everything reached its breaking point. After Virginia Giuffre filed a civil lawsuit, the Queen stripped Andrew of his royal titles and military honors. Shortly after, he reached a financial settlement with Giuffre for an undisclosed amount. His statement expressed regret for his association with Epstein and praised Giuffre's courage, though notably, he didn't admit guilt. Jeffrey Epstein was a man who wanted to rub elbows with the East Coast elite, but the truth is, his beginnings were far from glamorous. According to Filthy Rich, a book by James Patterson, along with journalists John Connolly and Tim Malloy, Epstein's childhood was solidly middle class, at a time when where you lived and your ethnicity shaped your identity. Fast forward, and Epstein was living in one of Manhattan's grandest private homes, with vacation spots around the world.
I have vacation homes in New Mexico, Palm Beach, New York, and Paris.
He donated over $35 million to Harvard for the Harvard Man image, and kept company with big names like Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and Leslie Wexner. Oddly enough, he shunned restaurants, claiming dining out was like eating on the subway. Make of that what you will.
And Jeffrey Edward Epstein, and my residence address is 6100 Red Hook Boulevard in Virgin Islands.
But before the lavish homes and high-profile friends, there was Seagate, a gated community on the western edge of Coney Island. That's where Epstein grew up in the 1950s and 60s. Seagate had suburban-style streets, a wraparound beach, and a strong Jewish community presence. In fact, the Epstein family home was right across from Knesset Israel, the neighborhood's oldest synagogue. Epstein's parents, Seymour and Paula, were both children of European immigrants, many of whose relatives didn't survive the Holocaust. Seymour worked for his father's house wrecking company and later for the New York City Parks Department, while Paula balanced her own job with running the household. Friends from that time described Paula as a devoted mother who somehow managed to juggle it all. Jeffrey and his younger brother Mark were gifted students, especially in math. Jeffrey also had a talent for music. He learned piano young and impressed friends with his skills. And here's something you might not expect. His high school photos show none of the smugness we'd later associate with him. Instead, his face looked softer, calmer. Back then, friends saw him as sweet, generous, and even had a nickname for him, Epi. At home, his parents called him Bear, while Mark was known as Puggy. Neighbors remembered the Epstein family fondly, describing them as so gentle, the most gentle people. Jeffrey attended Lafayette High School in Gravesend, a mix of Italian, Jewish, and African-American students. But the area wasn't exactly a melting pot of harmony. Anti-Semitism wasn't uncommon. One Lafayette graduate recalled that it was a volatile environment, a mostly Italian neighborhood where the arrival of Jewish families sparked tension. Beverly Donatelli, one of his classmates, and at one point his high school sweetheart, remembered that divide well. Her own mother liked Epstein, but also told her something she never forgot. Jewish boys don't marry Italian girls. That was the kind of cultural line that often shaped young relationships back then. From Lafayette, Epstein's academic path took him first to Cooper Union and then to New York University, but he never earned a degree. That didn't stop him. His big break came when he landed a job teaching math at the prestigious Dalton School in Manhattan. Quite the leap from Seagate, and just like that, he was spotted by someone who opened the door to Wall Street. From there, well, Epstein never looked back.